Finally, another one for the favorites shelf. I read The Watchman's Rattle by Rebecca Costa on a really cool trip to Mexico in 2015. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I wrote this about it after reading. I'm adding this to my favorites immediately. Costa's alternative-mindedness approach to problem solving is in lockstep with my personal philosophies. I hadn't really found it crystallized well until this book. The science and evolutions of thought and the brain itself, battle between knowledge and belief, the case for insight. These are such profound and compelling ideas that I hope everyone gets them, whether or not they get it from this book or it bleeds through as we struggle to grow as a civilization. Some of the most powerful content here for me was the description of super memes and the call to action to fight them. All 5 are so ever present in the complexities of our everyday life now that it almost feels like a battle already lost. Thankfully, Costa does the due diligence of pointing the pathway towards incremental positive. That concept of parallel incrementalism works for me in this. Grow quickly and on multiple fronts. Shotgun solutions so that failures become unimportant. The best ideas form through an overwhelming surplus of options and the resilience to repeatedly test them until the truth and its innovation are ferreted out. The only complaint I have is a degree of preachiness towards the end, and in all honesty, it probably needs to be there, because like any real evangelist of ideas, if she truly believes in their importance, then simply stating the facts wouldn't be enough. I'll swallow the sermon, because her testimony rang true for me. This is sincerely the freshest and most interesting piece of nonfiction I've read in years. I loved this book. There are so many great ideas about this. The concept of the Watchman's Rattle, what it was like in old communities, towns, when they had people who were watching over the town for threats coming in. And the rattle is something that would come up when there was a threat on its way in. The secondary title for this book is called A Radical New Theory of Collapse. And there are many different ideas in here. In talking about the super memes, I don't remember the specific super memes that are in there, but it does talk about patterns that happen in civilizations through history that lead to humanity destroying itself in things. She talks about how it always happens as part of a drought, and that the drought always leads to an extreme spirituality that for some reason always moves to this concept of sacrifice, in particular child sacrifice, for the purpose of appealing to some deity for water. It's an interesting idea that this has happened many times in relation to a lack of water. That thing that I talked about here, this parallel incrementalism, she proposes that we treat improvements for these complex world problems like a venture capitalist firm, where you invest in a ton of different ideas at the same time, because we have no way of knowing exactly which one is going to work or which one is going to fix our problem. So if we do small, incremental, positive growth on a grand scale in lots of different ways, the ideas that change things will end up winning out. And that is a fantastic idea for a way to approach the most complex problems in our society today. I love this book. It gave me hope. It gave me motivation to keep trying, to keep making things better. And I think it's fantastic. One of my favorite ideas that I learned from this book was the concept of walking on uneven ground being one of the most positive things that you can do for brain health. She talks about how walking on 2 feet was one of the greatest evolutions in human development, and that when you walk and you're consistently balancing yourself on uneven surfaces like cobblestone, that it reminds your brain of how you've evolved and how you've come to a new level. I think that's a pretty cool idea. And while I was walking down the cobbled streets of Sayulita in Mexico, it was neat to think that while it hurt the feet a little bit, it was actually doing something beneficial for my brain. It's called The Watchman's Rattle, A Radical New Theory of Collapse by Rebecca Costa. I read it in 2015 and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's another one for my favorites list. Till next.